All right, good afternoon, everyone. I am Marwan Cameron. This is The Conduit. This is the last episode of the first series of The Ripple Effect, brought to you by Kitsap County Substance Use Prevention. All right, so we are coming to you live. Today, we are not in the G2 Conduit Studios over at 1300 Sylvan Way. We are out at Kitsap. Where are we at? We are at Kitsap County Fairgrounds. We are at the Eagle's Nest, so shout out to Kitsap County Fairgrounds for making the space available to us today. But we are live and on location. So thank you everyone for tuning in on our various Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. Oh man, where else are we coming from? X, TikTok, we're everywhere. Instagram, we're on so many different platforms. So thank you for all tuning in. This podcast today is Stronger Together, a community conversation on prevention. We have a panel of, I'm going to call them experts again, a panel of experts. They hate it. We're going to make sure that they keep hearing that word all day long. We're going to go ahead and shift over to them. And what we're going to do, because I think it's just easier if they tell you who they are. I could introduce them and read their bios, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to have them shortly introduce themselves, and we're going to get right into the meat. So first, I'm going to start with Jewel. Jewel, if you would you please tell everyone who you are and just maybe a good 30 to 1 minute salvo of who you are.
My name is Jewel Shepard Sampson. I'm the executive director and founder of Kitsap Black Student Union, which is a nonprofit organization that focuses on leadership, accountability, we love that word, right? And with young people, middle school through college age. We do have a chapter of our program at Olympic College as well. And so I'm happy to be here and in community all the time. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that, Jewel. Next, we have Anthony. Anthony, would you please introduce yourself?
My name is Anthony Henderson. I'm a recent graduate of the Bachelor of Applied Science and Behavioral Healthcare program at Olympic College, where I formed a foundation in the field of behavioral health. Prior to earning my bachelor's degree, I completed an associate's degree in human services while simultaneously pursuing and obtaining my substance use disorder professional certification. I currently hold a substance use disorder professional trainee credential through the Washington State Department of Health. I found a passion for learning about prevention and early intervention of substance misuse in addition to treatment of SUDs. I understand the importance of helping individuals and communities recognize the warning signs of substance misuse before the disease forms and escalates. Substance use disorders are commonly comorbid with other mental health conditions, and prevention can save lives. In addition to substance misuse prevention, I have a mission to be a part of the breakdown of the stigma surrounding mental health challenges and seeking help. I'm an advocate for creating and being a part of environments where discussion about mental health is met with understanding as opposed to judgment and sentence. Education and knowledge can decrease the fear of misunderstanding. My broader philosophy highlights the pursuit of optimal health and wellness through self-discovery, self-care, and personal growth, encouraging individuals to develop a sense of purpose as well as resilience to not just survive, but thrive in all aspects of life.
All right, thank you for that, Andre. And Anthony, I'm sorry. Anthony, will you pull the mic just a little bit closer to yourself? You can lift the whole thing up to you. There you go. All right. And next we have Emily.
Hello, my name's Emily Apodaca. I work for Family Promise of Puget Sound. I'm a crisis case manager there. Most of my experience is out of New Mexico. I got my associate's degree in early childhood multicultural education and social work. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Emily. And now we will have Amy.
Good afternoon. My name is Amy. I actually hold two titles. I am the traffic safety coordinator with the Kitsap County Sheriff's Office, and I am the Target Zero manager for Region 9 with the Washington Traffic Safety Commission. Both of those kind of overlap, which is why I get to hold both of those titles. The main goal of my job is to try to limit serious injuries and death on Washington roads.
All right, thank you. Brian.
Yeah, I'm Brian Boyer. I'm the non-clinical supervisor for Kitsap Recovery Center. So I oversee the day-to-day operations of our inpatient and withdrawal management units, along with oversee and supervise all the non-clinical staff. Person in long-term recovery, and father of many, many children.
Hi, I'm Laura Hyde, and I coordinate the Substance Abuse Prevention and Youth Services Division of Kitsap County Human Services Department. And so my passion really is around keeping kids off drugs and alcohol and doing positive activities, being healthy, living good lives. And so that's really what I'm all about. Some of the programs that we offer are Bremerton and North Kitsap Substance Abuse Prevention Coalitions. And thank you so much for doing the community survey today. We really appreciate that. And the Kitsap Youth Opioid Prevention Program is a program that we also coordinate and that is funding this event today. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Cindy?
Hi, my name is Cindy Bonilla. I'm kind of an odd duck here because I'm an occupational therapist. So you're going to learn a little bit more about why I'm here and why I think I can be of help. I'm going to read my quick thing because otherwise I'll go on and on and on. So I've been an occupational therapist for about 25 years. I'm a graduate from the University of New Mexico, Albuquerque. At this stage of my life, I have shifted my focus to be more of a collaborator. My favorite saying is, it takes a village. So because of the long wait list for appointments, the supply out, the demand outweighs the supply. I've opened a private clinic in Bremerton, an outpatient clinic called Milagro Therapy Services. Milagro means miracle in Spanish, in case you didn't know that. And I really look forward to helping and serving in this area of desperate need. Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you for your introductions. And if we could, can we just give our panel a round of applause, please? Also, could you give yourselves a round of applause for coming out? On your tables, and of course, you out there virtually, now that you know a little bit about our panel, if you have questions for them, please go ahead and type them on your index card, write them on your index cards. You can also raise your hands during our Q&A, and we will get to as many questions as possible. We do want to go ahead and open it up. And I'm just going to put these questions out there. When you think about a healthy and thriving community, what does that look like in your sector? Put that to anyone in the group.
I can go first. When I think of a healthy and thriving community, I think about our focus really being on how to support youth in our community and not just seeing them as our future leaders, because we tend to do that. We tend to think about our next phase of life and whatever we're doing, and then put young people straight in there without actually supporting the cause of how to get them there. I think of belonging in a space where you feel safe, and that goes for youth and adults. I think about programs that enrich our lives. It could be something as simple as a community garden, which in the long run has a lot of positivity for our youth. Being able to feel dirt between your hands. They can't ground in the dirt because they do have their shoes and socks on for safety. But being able to take something from a seed and grow it is really something miraculous that it does to your soul. So that's what I think about.
Cool. Someone else jump in there.
Marwan,
Yes, go ahead.
do you want us to just chime in, or are we going down?
Yeah, just chime in.
Okay. Well, when I think of a healthy and thriving community, I think of happy people. people whose basic needs are met, and are able to do something that they enjoy, healthy living, having enough resources. As far as young people, are young people growing up supported and knowing that they're loved and their basic needs being met, and them all having some positive activities other than school. And sometimes that can be challenging to finance, and we all need to work together to support our young people because they are our future. Thank you.
Thank you.
When I think of a happy, thriving community, I think of all children and families housed and food and basic necessities met.
I agree with all of that.
This mic. Oh, okay, there it is.
I agree with all of that, and I think when I think of a happy and thriving community, I think of health equity. I think of all people having the same access to health care, and a community where stigma is not as prevalent, where a place where we can all agree that, because we all have mental health in one way or another, we all have mental health. And it's a community where we can look at it in a brighter light rather than a negative thing, in getting our needs met. Children too, children having their basic needs met and more, and being able to live an optimal life, healthy.
I kind of go back to the old attitude of a communal type of approach. We forget about our elderly. We have a lot to give back, and they need that too. So I picture the euphoric, perfect world of having grandmothers and grandfathers playing with the children and sharing their wisdom and giving them hope and giving them quality of life feelings, because we are a broken system financially, medically, and everything, and that's not going to go away right away. But quality of life on a daily basis, I think, is something we really need to kind of regenerate that positive energy and have some hope.
No, I appreciate that. Let's move on a little bit to awareness and a little bit of clarity. You know, Jewel and I were talking during lunch, and you know, one of the things is it can be very difficult for our youth to come to us or come to an adult and talk about what's going on. So what are some early signs of struggle, whether it be mental health or substance use or crisis, that youth are going through that you might see? And I will open this up to each one of you to answer. And maybe we'll start with Brian. Brian?
So some of the early signs that I've noticed, like in my kids and stuff, is like they'll start skipping class. They'll come home late. Maybe they'll sneak out at night. Yeah. So I have a teenager that's kind of struggling himself. So I'm kind of trying to think of the path that he's taken and where he's at now. And if there were signs earlier on that would have been useful for me to kind of try to help prevent to where we're at right now. But I mean, those were like the key ones. Yeah, that's what I got.
Sometimes you'll see changes in the pattern of their friends that they hang out, more withdrawn attitudes, aggressiveness and anger. It doesn't always mean that there's a substance involved, but there's something going on. And I can think back to when I was younger and really relating to some of the youth that I've asked this question. At what point will you tell your parents that there's something going on? And the majority of them are saying that their parents have other things to worry about and they don't want to burden their parents, so they won't tell them. You kind of have to figure it out on your own because your child is still a child and they're actually thinking more about bothering you than themselves. It's somewhat honorable, but also kind of dangerous because they're children dealing with a lot of unhealthy things that we could probably help them with. So I would say, even different habits that they have. And sometimes it's just, adolescence and you're changing and trying to find who you are. But the biggest one is just withdrawn in different activities, aggression, mood patterns. I just described myself sometimes, but it's concerning when you see your youth deviate from their normal selves. And so it at least bears taking some time to sit with them and talk to them and just keep an eye out on things. And not I guess it would be the helicopter parent, but more so just trying to have a relationship with your child so that you know when those things are changing.
Yes, please, go ahead.
I know that this is a little bit off subject, but when about teen pregnancy, I know it's not really teen pregnancy, but when I was during my younger years and when I got pregnant, I was scared to tell my mom. So how do we do that in a safe, healthy manner? Because I was brought up like religious, like Catholic. And I was brought up where wedlock, getting pregnant out of wedlock was not okay. And so I was fearful when it came to teaching with that, and I couldn't explain it to my mom. And I had a cousin had her pregnancy at 17 with me being from the Philippines. They're very strict down there with Hispanic families, and I noticed that younger girls are resorting to like abortion because they have no legal situation. With that, some parents have kicked their kids out for that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard. That's something that is hard as a teenage girl. That's something that was hard for me to deal with. Actually, like I was scared to literally go on a date with a man because I didn't want to get pregnant, but I didn't want to. I wanted to go on the date, but I was just so fearful of being scolded, being called like a hoe or a slut at home because, and that wasn't what I wanted to project with my parents, but that's something that was scary for me growing up, being of a different ethnic race. Not to create any controversial here. But we need more resources for young teenage girls for that. I think more positive counselors that can help ease the tension between mother-daughters with that kind of thing. Because I've had some friends be freaked about that, and she taught us too. So more resources for teen pregnancy, I think. I just wanted to bring that up.
Can I hop in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that question. We absolutely need more resources for teen pregnancy. I had a friend in high school who got pregnant and she felt alone. And luckily she was able to talk to one of her teachers about it, but really trying to reach out to somebody responsible in your life. And if you can, as adults, if we can be open and kind of paying attention to kids that aren't necessarily our children, but part of the community, and be there and be a good listener and be a good support, because she had really strict parents too. And in talking with that teacher, she was able to come up with a strategy of how to talk to her mom about it. And so really it's about us as adults being open and receptive and supportive of young people, but also having the resources. Yes, we need more counseling, we need more supports around mental health, around physical health, and just as much as we can give to our children, we desperately need. And funding, is scarce and growing scarcer. And that's where we as community members need to step up and do everything we can to volunteer for groups that are serving kids and just be there as a person to try to help them and look for signs.
I would like to add to that because I grew up the exact same way that you're speaking of. And I was blessed enough to have another group of people that I could talk to. My dad is here today, so it's been a long road. I'm 45 years old now. I experienced teen pregnancy, and it was scary, and I felt like I could not tell anybody. I went through the same exact thing that you're talking about. There were other friends of mine that also experienced it because in church we were being taught that we would, spontaneous combust and go to hell if we had sex and sex was bad. And then we tried it and we didn't think it was bad. No one was teaching about being protective. They weren't teaching about using protection. And so it's very important that you do have, your kids are going to experience things. Teen pregnancy doesn't go away. It hasn't went away. But if we are able to really make sure that we are okay with the mentors and community, getting our kids associated with good programs like Kids at Black Student Union, we work on going and talking to parents about their traditional ways that are just not working. We want to build relationships. You don't want a kid to be shunned forever from a church even. And we know that it happens. I want to say people have the intention of doing the right thing, and sometimes we fail. But a child in that position, it's really scary, and they can make a really hurtful decision.
As a female, we like to be loved, I mean, like, I know, like, it feels good when we go on a date, it feels good to be, like, appreciated, and so, but, like, when I got pregnant out of wedlock, I went to KFH, and they were a good service. My counselors really did help me, and I had WIC and had KCR, and those are really good programs that if you don't have a lot of money, they give you like a free high chair, and they give you like, WIC gives you like free formula for the baby too. So if you accidentally got pregnant, that's a good resource that I wanted to bring out to let the young kids hear for that. But like I said, I grew up in a really strict religious family that was forbidden. So it was not nice.
Can I say something? In everything we do, relationships is important. Example, my daughter, who's a one time, I taught her the thing I taught her. If you have sex, I'm protected, you may have a child. That's what it's hard to begin. You can hide under religion or whatever you want. Bottom line there, we're put here to co-create, replenish, subdue, and have community. If you're going to do that, we're going to have kids. If we're going to have kids, they're going to raise up to be adults. We have to train up a child in the way he should grow. So when he's old, he won't get points from it. It begins at home in the community. Mm-hmm. It does not begin with the volunteer community. It begins at home and the community. Even if the home is got bad stuff, it still has to be at home. And we have to look at the level, no matter what age we are, because before we die, we have to go back and get that right, because the master of the universe requires us to do that, because we left something uncovered. Just like we're here today talking about prevention, it begins with us telling our kids addiction is a problem. We all have them in different phases. I'm an auto mechanic. I like playing with cars. That is an addiction. We don't like to call it that. We have people who are hard. That's an addiction. Let's label it right. Let's put it right. Let's work from what it is to become what it needs to be. Mm-hmm. But it begins with us. Every person in this room, from the oldest to the youngest. Because when I was growing up, I'm the baby, so I got to be up. I'm the last of 7. How many of us is the baby? How many of us is the first? If we were the first, oh, now we gotta take care. There was no babysitter. You were the babysitter.
Yeah.
And think about it. Yeah, my mama just do some stuff I didn't want, but guess what? My mama was how many years older than I was? Yeah. She had some issues she claims on. She didn't have everybody that's raised her. This is what this is about. We're talking about prevention. Prevention begins when you first hear, see, know something different, and you begin to investigate. I like these meetings, but they get me in trouble because I get caught up with the simple solution. It begins with me.
Well, Hank, let me cut you off before getting in trouble. All right, so what I'm gonna do is, if you have questions in the audience, write them down on the index paper, because the people in virtual land can't hear you. So there's a lot of people that are watching, and I already have a few folks that are saying, can you repeat the question? So I do have some questions here, and so I'm gonna read those off. So if you need an index card, raise your hand. We're gonna have some people pass them off and bring you some pens to write them down. So raise your hand, we'll get them over there. So here's a question from the audience here. What kind of strategies are in place for young people with substance use disorder, but also managing a disability such as autism? What kind of strategies are in place for young people with substance use disorder, but also managing a disability such as autism?
Hi. That's a big challenge. At my clinic, I probably have, out of 40 patients, maybe 20 of them have a diagnosis of autism. Neurodiversity has definitely caused issues because of the sensory processing challenges. And so we do see the potential for a child to want to feel better about themselves or feel even. And so I can see that leading to experimenting with drugs. And a lot of the kids that are autistic are also ADHD. It kind of goes hand in hand. So then they're on that medication, a narcotic for ADHD, and that just can be easily a bridge to other things. That's a hard one. I don't know what the solution would be, but it would be probably parent education, just like the gentleman was talking about. But making that accessible, it's hard to be a parent raising kids with autism and trying to make time to study. Audible books make a difference. Some of my parents listen to those. But just, then that means we need childcare. So, there's a whole thing that we need, a cascade of services, resources to help. But I think it does start with the parents knowing more about it and being able to get some help. I don't know if that helps.
The parents that I've dealt with have had a horrible time trying to navigate systems because our systems only allow to bill in increments of a said code versus treating the whole person. And so they will treat for autism, but you have to get in trouble for the substance abuse part. And so it's like, it's penalizing young people. And I've seen this, with friends too. Youth of color, first of all, get misdiagnosed often. They're not diagnosing autism first. They are treating everything else but the autism. And so it takes them a little bit longer to get to a point where they really, a parent or a caseworker, I will say that some of them have caseworkers and the caseworker is able to find out more information. But caseworkers are really, I'm hearing that some of them have loads of 150 people a month to rotate and make sure that they're okay. I want to make sure that we have the concept of, even if our system is broken, we are not broken as a people. And so it is, if you take on the role of advocacy, then it means that you're constantly looking for a solution and not staying in the dumps with what is not working. So I don't have a real good answer for that other than your best advocate is going to be probably through whatever services you're already working through. And then if you have to go to, I don't even know how many people you have to go to. There was a lady online who actually took a hearing with her local city council and was complaining about the services that her son was receiving for years. And it took her 3 years and 2 lawsuits to finally get an answer. So sometimes we do have to, step up legally. And that's hard and it costs money. But I know there's a lot of people who get what they want because they put legal in front of it. And so we need, I know we have some legal advocates. I don't know if they deal directly with mental health specifically, but they like money. So I'm sure if you have a good case, I'm sure they can help you. But I say always ask a question and never stop at no.
I'd also like to add, we have a great organization here in that back corner, Kitsap Parent Coalition. They would be a great source of information and support.
Oh, I know a great place that does Kitsap Mental Health. We deal with a lot of mental health and drug substance abuse of the same type. And my daughter's dad does counseling there, and he has a lot of issues. And so KMH is a good place to go.
Thank you. The people online can't hear you, so even comments are probably going to have to go on a note card. Yeah, thank you. And yes, KMH, we do know about KMH, but they are a place that also treats one or the other because it goes back to the state billing system. And I know that for a fact, unfortunately.
Another question from the audience, and what I like about this is it's bringing folks together, and I don't have to ask questions, which is great. So why do we put the blame on youth who have not created the problem?
I want to speak on that as a mother. I feel like it's easy to put off the blame on someone else because it's hard to have those conversations with your children, and that's something we need to do. We need to have hard conversations, keep an open line of communication, and a judge-free zone. We expect our teens, even our younger children, to step up and do so much, and we forget that sometimes they get overwhelmed, and we tend to push down like, oh, it's not that bad, or it's not that bad from our life. But, their bad could be their worst day. And that doesn't mean we, make it small and it's okay for them. And so we just need to be able to create more room for them to speak. And that might be going back to creating a bigger village.
I love that.
I think it has a lot to do with peer pressure.
Oh, my
That's
goodness.
because my daughter's,
So again, the comments have to come on the card because they can't hear you online. But I think the blaming part is that's human nature to blame other people. I was just recently talking with students about the guilt that parents probably carry over generation and generation. Being right in the middle at 45, I can actually see, and I remember talking to my mom about some of the things that she thought, we would never, ever have to see in this lifetime again. And I've heard it before. I don't know what the saying is, but there's something about every generation has to basically fight for their own rights. And I don't exactly agree with it, but I do understand the concept of understanding how to stand up for yourself, advocate for yourself, and know that it is not your fault. Even if someone is blaming you for something that you did not do, it is not your fault. And I think that there are people, parents in community that understand. They've been here for a while now. We're looking at, even through politics, the undoing of our civil rights and voting rights. Those people that are undoing it are actually the grandparents. They would be my grandparents. They're still here. So it's like there's a generation in between that was, I think, working on making sure they cleared a path for us in these other avenues. Because remember, women couldn't even work. Women couldn't have a credit card. So the focus was there, and maybe some things slipped along the way. But your generation, youth, are empowered to do so much. I mean, we stand together, and I love being in spaces with youth because they have the ability to see beyond what we see right in front of us. I think a lot of us sometimes as adults have limitations on what we can do, where a youth will just come in and say, well, did you think of it this way? And it's like, wow, why didn't I think of it that way? Because we have grown up in a mindset that there's a wall that we can't go beyond. But young people push against that and truly believe that the sky's the limit. So we should continue to encourage that.
Yeah, I like what you just said, because we do have to be open-minded and being willing to learn from even younger people, and not get set in our ways. Also, I think education is huge. Just learning about it, because a lot of people don't know that there are biological things going on where people are predisposed to addiction before they're even born. A lot of people don't know that, and I think it's important for us to educate ourselves. We don't have to know everything about it, but we do. If we're confused, we need to know the basics. So just even knowing that there are other influences, and it's not a moral failure on the youth. There's other things at play.
All right. I want to move on to another question, then I'm going to read some more comments and questions on the index cards. This one, I'm really excited about hearing everyone in the panel answer. What is the most effective way you found to open up conversations with a teen who doesn't want to talk? And if we could, let's start with Emily and Amy.
So my teens, one way I found to always keep an open communication was be involved in the things they like, even if that meant me learning how to play a video game, me reading the same books that they're reading, trying to stay interested and involved in what they're doing, because communication isn't going to come, especially the tough communication, isn't going to come from sitting down and talking with them. It needs to flow naturally. You need to be able to have that natural communication with them, because sometimes you could be laughing and out of the blue, they're ready to tell you something important. And, being able to have that starts from building that relationship with them, even at the smallest things, jokes that aren't funny, but, things that you necessarily wouldn't talk about, not being able to put them down, like their opinions and stuff. Sometimes your opinions are not going to match up with your children, and it's okay. And to naturally be able to just hear them out. And we forget that we need to listen more than we need to speak.
Being in traffic safety, my world is a little bit different, but I do have ways to try to meet teens where they're at. This spring, we were actually at Central Kitsap High School right after their mock crash, right before their prom, and we had information, which is also at the front, about the You in the Driver's Seat app, which works very similarly to our insurance apps where for safe driving discounts, and then they earn cash for that comes to them, not their school, not the parents, them as the safe driver. And generally, if you tell teens that there's a way for them to earn cash, they start to listen. The other thing that I do is, I guess I'm going to kind of ask you guys, you guys don't have to answer out loud, but how many people do you think should die on Washington roads in a given year? Is that 25? Is that, you're right, it's 0. But they're going to say 25, 50, and then you turn it around and you say, okay, we'll pick out 25 and 50 of your friends, and those are the 50 that are going to die this year. And all of a sudden, that answer is 0. But it puts it into perspective for them when they're driving their friends, when they're going places. So I guess it kind of goes back to relating to them, meeting where they're at. I did not just show up at lunch on a random Thursday. I showed up at lunch right after their mock crash, the weekend before their prom. And so meeting them where they're at, figuring out what they like, what's going to interest them. Those are a lot of the things. I personally like to go to sleep as soon as my toddler does. So unfortunately, sometimes I have to stay up a little late to communicate with the teenagers who don't function until 9 p.m. So you have to be able to do the uncomfortable things, and you have to be able to do the things that you don't want to be able to do for the greater good of the people around you.
I can't tell you how many times when I sit down with a young person and ask questions, they are talking from being influenced by YouTube influencers. That's their perspective. You know, we all have something we pick to be our banner of what we think and align ourselves with it, and that's a scary thought. I sit down with some, I have 12 and 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, and they're telling me, well, so-and-so, and who's that? He's got a YouTube station. So I think we need to start with being more responsible with our kids having access to that. This whole thing of brain rot, and I swear if I hear 67 one more time, I'm going to pull my hair out. I just turned 68, so of course they kept asking me, how old are you? And I ended up saying 99. But, it is that responsibility. We have these things in front of us, these tools. Technology is great, but it's responsibility. Teaching a child that they have their own brain and they don't need to assume somebody else's philosophies and thoughts. We grew up without that stuff, and we managed to figure it out, even though it was right or wrong, and we made all those mistakes. But I am very frightened, the fact that they have access to adults speaking and teaching them things that they should not learn at that age. So that's kind of my 2 cents as far as where that is. So.
Brian and Anthony?
Yeah, for me, the conversation, so a lot of times as a parent, normally the conversations happen when, the kid did something that we believe they shouldn't have done or of that nature. So what I've been working on myself is rather than, putting the blame on them and why did you do this, or that, more or less asking questions, or like try to hit their perspective of what they were thinking or what they were going through, or what brought them to the place where they're at and what they want to do about it moving forward. It's more like trying to invite them into the conversation to get their perspective and their opinion, rather than laying what my opinion and my perspective is and what I want them to do. Just being a little bit more understanding and empathetic of where they're coming from. Remembering that, they're, as teenagers, they're trying to break away and become their own identity. And they're navigating a world that's not so kind. So that's it for me. Just being a little bit more empathetic and understanding and asking the questions to try and get more of a perspective of where they're coming from, rather than trying to force where I believe they should be onto them.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page with you. Instead of asking, what's wrong with you, we can ask, what happened to you or what's going on. We can be more curious about what is happening with them, rather than going to a place of anger, but instead going to a place of acceptance and curiosity, and empowerment, and teaching them that they do have the ability to make decisions. And I also like that you mentioned the internet and the influence of that, because that is huge, and that's a lot of it's the music, it's the YouTube videos, and it's all over the place. We all have access, and depending on what kind of perspective you're coming from, whether you're a parent or a professional working in the field, I think that acceptance and empathy are huge, because nobody responds to why did you do that? What's wrong with you? Nobody responds to anger. I don't like being yelled at, so why would a child? That teaches them to just be quiet instead of speaking their mind and speaking their heart. Mm-hmm.
Laura, Joel?
I'll kick in something. So I'm a mom, and I really think spending as much time with a child or a youth as you possibly can, just doing the mundane things, the dishes, driving to and from, or taking the bus to and from events, just taking that opportunity to ask open-ended questions, so what was your favorite part of today? What was your least favorite part of today. What's going on with Seth, or, know the names of their friends and their influences and the people involved in their life, and just talking and spending time. That was very valuable for me as a mom, and very valuable to my daughter, because even today when she's grown, she has an opportunity. If something comes up, she'll just pick up the phone or pop on over and say, "Hey, Mom, I need your perspective on this." And so it's really just time, being there, being the person for them.
One of the things I wanted to add on is letting them know that failure is okay. Failure is where we grow, and it's okay to make mistakes. And how do we move forward? Keeping it positive, because they are going to make those mistakes. They are going to fail, but what do we do to get back up?
We always called it a learning opportunity when we made a mistake. It's a learning opportunity. So what'd you learn with that? What might you do different next time? Because we all make mistakes. And I would address the mistakes that I make too, and just say, "Oh, well, I made this mistake, and here's how I'm going to do it better. I was running late this morning. I think I'm going to," and just share the fact that it's okay for your whole life to be talking about ways to get better, and that you still make mistakes.
So I was reading off of this report from the CDC, which is the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and they're talking about reducing health risk among youth. So this is substance use among youth. And I just wanted to name a few of them because it's on topic. So risk factors for youth high-risk substance use can include family history of use, favorable parental attitudes regarding the behavior, poor parental monitoring, parental substance use, family rejection of sexual orientation, association with delinquent or substance-using peers, lack of connectedness. Some of those things are just going back to, building relationship with your children, their friends, making sure that they have good people around them, but also that you're modeling healthy behaviors in front of them. And so as a mentor that deals with over 500 youth across Kitsap County, sometimes you get to a point where, you're talking freely around the youth, and you might catch yourself say something and say, "Oh my goodness, I probably shouldn't be modeling that behavior." So we are modeling behavior all the time, whether it is dealing with substance, whether it's dealing with disagreement and how we get along with one another. The truth is we are not always going to get along. We all have a lot of opinions. But it's how we respect one another and care for one another that carries over to what these youth actually see. And so when you say one thing to them, you're telling them to do something, but you have different behavior, it actually breaks trust with youth. They don't think that you are walking the walk or talking the talk. And so it's very important that you don't start, you could start anywhere. If you haven't been able to break through with your child, then maybe you need to reach out to KBSU and come along to some of the events and get to know your child better. I have to speak really out loud about the sexual orientation thing, because growing up the way that I did in church, there was a very hard stigma about who God loved. And now I know God loves everybody. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter where you come from. His love is for everybody. And so if we model that and we don't sit and chastise anybody, especially kids. I've read stories about kids battling suicide because of how we think of them, and they're just being themselves, whatever that is. Sometimes they don't know. There's a lot of opinions about, whether schools are grooming kids because they're actually saying we're creating a safe environment for a person, a kid, to be whoever they are, whatever that is. Those are things that it's not new, but it was taboo to talk about before. And so now that it's here, it's like, well, we always had, queer is not new. You probably just didn't know because it wasn't acceptable to talk about in society. Everybody deserves respect and love no matter what they choose. And you can argue that it's not a choice. It doesn't matter. All you need to do is be there for your kids, show love and respect. The same thing that you tell them how to treat you is the same way you need to treat them.
Right, thank you, panel, for those answers. All right, we have a comment from the audience. This one comes from David Rambo, Hot Dog Dave. I'd like to give a shout out to Tommy Story, who is very involved with the disability community, autism, ADHD, etc. A shout out to Tommy Story. I know that gentleman, and he works
Yes,
very
I love
hard in the
Tommy.
community. Question here. Maybe we need education for parent-on-parent groups. Did you want to jump in on that?
Well, I think education is critical, no matter what we're talking about. If we're trying to protect our kids, protect our community, our families, individuals, it doesn't matter. We're all part of community. I can say, as far as parent education, our division with the county, we do provide 2 opportunities, which I know that they're in other places as well, but one of those programs is called Positive Action, and it just so happens that G2 is implementing that program for us. Pretty cool stuff. And that one's geared towards kids, but we have Guiding Good Choices, which is parent engagement. They've made it pretty specific that it's not parent education, it's teaching your adults, the parents, to engage with their youth. So completely different ball, and I think it's very effective, and it's been very, very, very successful with the families that we have had partnership in that.
All right. We have 2 more questions in the audience. In what manner do youth organizations help peers recover without excess tension?
So for Kids at Black Student Union, we are on the end of, I guess we're at the beginning of learning the proper steps. But in all that we do, the platform of love and care, intentional care, and belonging is there. I do have students that have to go away for a little bit, and knowing that they can call and still be able to reach someone or receive a postcard or a letter is very important, because sometimes when kids are going through youth recovery, they don't hear from anybody. You know, they're limited to sometimes just family, immediate family with their parents. And I think a lot of it is because people don't want to share that their child is dealing with recovery. I think that I can understand both sides of that. But if we don't really know how to care for people, you know, during a specific time in their life, then it's harder to be more intentional. So I always say, whatever your child is comfortable with and you're comfortable with, then that's what we're comfortable with as well. We are doing some learning this summer on peer-to-peer substance abuse training, and then also how to support families. So I do think that what we've seen over the last 3 years, we're a really new organization, and we've done a lot in a short time. But what we've seen is that when you're only dealing with maybe the child or just the parent, and you're not looking at whole family healthiness, then there's always the chance that their supportive measures fall through the cracks because they just don't have it. You don't know what you don't know. And sometimes we do put a lot of blame on parents to know stuff, but all of you in this room that are a parent know that there was no instruction manual. You had to figure it out, and you were lucky if you knew someone that raised, you know, semi-decent kids. Because I always joke about us, and there's 5 of us, and all of us talk about being semi-decent kids. I came back in this space as a mentor because of how I grew up, and just knowing that I needed somebody like me when I was that age. And so it's my give back forever. It is so refreshing to be able to have more preventative measures so that youth don't have to go through some of the things that I went through myself. Thank you.
So this is a good time for me to tell you about occupational therapy. A lot of times, I don't deal with the drug abuse itself, but most of us that turn to drugs or substance abuse, young, old, is because our life is unraveling. We don't have purpose, we don't have pride, we're sad, anxiety, and so for me as an occupational therapist, everything you occupy your life with is important. So we can find ways to modify the things you're struggling with, whether it's because of depression or anxiety or whatever that is. That's a diving board off towards getting healthy. And healthy doesn't just mean physical, of course, mental, cognitive, all of those things, just your outlook. If you can change even a little bit of your frame of reference, that could help you to see that tomorrow is a better day to live and why you wouldn't take your life or why you wouldn't continue and you would get help. So as an occupational therapist, a lot of that is a doctor's referral. And we look at everything you occupy your life with. And we try to tease that down and say, okay, let's pick one thing that you could really focus and get some help or get better at, and then revisit that later. So there are other professionals. This is kind of a multidisciplinary, intervention approach. And don't be afraid to ask a doctor about therapists, because it's not just mental health therapists. There are other medical therapists that help. Play therapy. We do a lot to try to just change your attitude and the way you feel about yourself, and hopefully that will help you to seek help and to, look to the people that really can help you with that substance abuse. Sometimes that's really helpful. So that's just kind of my 2 cents.
All right, shout out to the chat. Maria Fergus says, I love intentional care and belonging. Keep them coming, chat. Were you going to jump in there, Jewel?
Oh, I was just going to say also, it just came to mind that even if we don't know what someone's going through, KBSU has activities for youth and they are free. So anything, they can come and we could not know anything that's going on. They have a couple hours, sometimes up to 4 hours to hang out, be a kid, hang out with their friends. We always encourage them to bring a friend with them and just have fun. Everything is not a structured workshop. There's time for that too. But we need to bring back pure joy of just seeing kids laugh and enjoy themselves. I try not to call our youth middle school through high school kids because they don't like to be called kids. But the joy of a kid is still, you're a minor. And so we don't put enough emphasis on joy. And I think we really need to find joy in everything that we do.
Definitely got to fund that, right? You got to put money on that.
Yeah, oh yes. We do have to pay for it, but we don't charge the kids, so.
No, we don't charge kids. We
Yeah.
just, fill out the survey,
Yes.
make sure you vote. Those things are important. In institutions such as camps or schools, how do policies manage to ease prevention? Bathroom policies, counselor policies, media policies.
Can you repeat the question?
In institutions such as camps or schools, how do policies manage to ease prevention, such as bathroom policy, counselor policy, media policy?
Well, I'll address that. Policies are just about rules and the way we do things. So as often as we can, support the development of policy, the development of rules and regulations and laws that are supportive to young people, that are supportive to people in recovery, that are supportive to people in need. And so advocacy is a wonderful tool that we all have. And if you can meet with somebody who's making a policy decision and let them know what you think. Every person making a policy decision says that for every person that they hear from, they think that there's 10 or 15 people out there at least that feel that way as well. So one voice has huge power, but also a young person's voice has the greatest power. We have an event here in Kitsap County called the Kitsap Youth Forum. And it's an opportunity where we bring policymakers together and young people from the county. And we take questions ahead of time, we take questions on the spot, and they ask questions or make statements to the policy makers about what they need. So advocacy really is a power that we all have to influence laws, rules, regulations, and policies.
As a former policymaker, I do want to put another note on that. Yes, the development and the advocacy is extremely important, but most policies and most procedures will have what they call a sunset review period. So this policy is written, and then at a predetermined time, it is reviewed to see if it is still relevant and if there are changes that need to be made. So if there are truly questions about a school's policy, a camp's policy, or another youth-focused center's policy, I would reach out to that institution and figure out what their sunset review period is, and then make sure that you're paying attention and that you're involved in that review process. Because once a policy is set, it's generally set for a predetermined amount of time, but it will change with the passage of laws, with the passage of bills, and it will change with regular maintenance periods. We all update our phones with people we don't talk to anymore. We add people. That's just kind of a normal flow of life. So if it's really important to you, make sure you keep on it, make sure you know when that review period is, and make sure you're on the distribution list for information as it comes out so that you can make your voice heard at the earliest possible moment.
Yeah, I love this because what they just talked about is policy is politics. And so much in community I hear, oh, I don't do politics. And it's like, okay, but you're complaining. So if you're complaining about something, then you have to do politics to change it. It's very important that our representatives who say that they have our best interests know and hear from us all the time. They need to hear from us when we're happy, and they need to hear from us when we're not so happy. We have on June 30th, I'm going to just go ahead and plug this. We have a community panel with law enforcement at Olympic College, 5:30 p.m. The flyer is out there. I will share it again. But these are ways that you actually get to influence through whatever department that you are upset with or happy about, or maybe you just feel like things could be a little bit better. You know, these people, elected positions especially, they are catering to you. And no, it does not mean that they will do everything that we all want, but they try to find a happy medium. The truth is that some policies are set 20 years ago, maybe they don't work anymore. And so they need to hear from us.
Question is for everyone. And this one, I'm definitely a little worried about for myself. If a parent finds out their teen is already using, what's the worst thing I can do? And what's my best first step? This is for everyone, please.
I guess the first step is to seek guidance, whether that's from a counselor or the school or, somebody, another parent. But you definitely want to think about how you're responding and what kind of resources you have available to you.
Yeah, I think how you're responding is definitely one of the most important things to do. I would say, that's a tough question, but I would say, not to don't jump too far ahead just because your youth is using or maybe using, there are supports, and as a parent, you can be one of them. Yeah.
Well, I would say the first thing you don't want to do is kick them out of the house. You don't want to do that. That used to be a trend in the 90s. Your kid did something you didn't agree with, you kicked them out. And so I stayed at a lot of people's houses because I wasn't always doing what I was supposed to do. But when you kick a child out, it's not tough love. It actually creates abandonment issues. And so as a healthier adult, I can now acknowledge that, okay, yes, I did some things wrong, but abandoning your kid is not the thing to do. And again, my dad's in the audience, but we have repaired since then. But I don't know, because I am not an expert in this arena, but I am, a semi-expert. I don't think anybody could ever be an expert with kids. They change all the time. But there are some things that are always the same, and love is always the same. So you need to lead from love and not anger and hurt, because as a parent, I'm sure you feel disappointment is probably the first thing you feel. And maybe you feel angry that they did not tell you they were struggling. But I already said earlier that a lot of our kids are not going to tell you because you're busy, you're working, you have to feed the family, and they don't want to burden you. And so then there comes this whole cycle of blaming yourself. And as Anthony said, don't jump ahead, just stay in the moment and talk through it. The reason prevention efforts are here is because it is more likely that you're going to deal with this than not. And that's just the cards we're dealt right now. We would like for that to change. And so getting into these classes through some of the programs that were already mentioned are avenues to be able to have healthy choices on that next step. But the first step is love and trying to understand how you got there. You may not be able to get all the answers, but I know from dealing with someone myself that I love very much, I said, thank you for telling me, because it means you trusted to tell me the information. And you had some inkling that I might be able to help you. People aren't telling you anything because they just want to share. A lot of times they're thinking that you might have an answer for them or know how to help them. And so then there is a hotline under 988 that is still active for suicide and substance abuse. They've cut off some of the resources, but they still have suicide and substance abuse. And then we also have 211 for our local directory, but accessing some of those can help. And then we have urgent care. So urgent care has a whole process. If someone has been using and they are actively under influence, you can take them to urgent care, and then they assess them from there, and we'll decide where they go from there. And they walk the parents through everything. If you don't feel comfortable when you go to an urgent care or a hospital, you can always ask for an advocate. So I know some of us don't like to go to the hospitals, especially locally, because we've had some issues, but you always want to get an advocate involved.
So, and I just want to give a shout out to our agencies that are around the room. They're all great supports and great sources of information about how to support kids that are struggling with or in recovery.
I need help with everybody. Please help me. I don't think everyone answered.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. Of course, I covered the question up, Brian. All right, so the question is, if a parent finds out their teen is already using, what is the worst thing they can do, and what's the best first step?
That's a hard question. I guess the worst thing would be, get out of my house, don't come back. I think as a parent, what I have to remind myself is that even the best parenting in the world isn't going to prevent kids from being kids. They're going to do things, they're going to make mistakes. So I guess what I would need to know is I would need to know more information. Yes, okay, I found out that my child is using or has used. Is this an ongoing issue? Is this something that just happened once or twice? And then based off of that, then I can parent in advice, right? Here's some things that you could do. Like if they are struggling with a substance use disorder they're using on a regular basis, here are the resources. Would you like me to help you get those set up? Stuff like that. I'm personally going through a situation like that with my teenage son. And I honestly don't have the answers, right? He took off because he doesn't want to follow rules. He doesn't want to have help. And, I haven't seen him in over a month. So, yeah. So I'm struggling there. Like what I would like to do is to, get him into some services and, support him in making different decisions and hopefully change the trajectory of the path that he's on. That's my hope. I mean, that's what I want to do as a parent. I don't want to shame him. I don't want to, make him feel like less of a person. I just want to support and love him. So, yeah.
If there is a youth in the position where they remove themselves or the parent remove them from the home, they can reach out to Family Promise and we can help them find resources, whether that's for treatment facilities or finding safe shelter. My number.
On my end, on average, people drive impaired 80 times before they're caught. So by the time they get pulled over by law enforcement or they've been in a wreck, it's not their first time and it's not their second time. So I really wouldn't be able to provide advice on the first time. But we do have law enforcement officers who are dedicated to helping individuals who are struggling with mental health and with substance abuse. They are dedicated. We have a traffic unit, we have an investigative unit, and then we have, your school resource officers, and then a separate unit specifically for substance use and mental health. So please know that that is always an option as well. If they're in immediate crisis, I would encourage you to call 911. Their non-emergency 911 line is going through a little bit of work. They just launched it, and as such, there's some bugs, but they're really great at making sure that you can get through that. I've called them a couple different times for various instances, but law enforcement is there, and they really do want to help. There obviously are a lot of other factors that they're fighting with, but their real true hope and goal is to make the county better for everyone.
All right, I think I may have heard from everyone. So what we're going to do as we wrap, there's one final question that we got from the audience, and what I'm going to do is encourage you to get that answer from the panel after and just do a little meet and greet, if you will. And the question is, why do we treat alcohol usage different than we do drug use? We went over by 11 minutes, but what I want to do is just take the last little 3 minutes and in 30 seconds or so, just go down the line and tell folks how they can find you, because I think that's important. This may be the first time that they have seen you, and I want to make sure that they know how to get in touch with you, for the people that are in the room with us right now and the people that are watching us virtually, live now, or will watch in the future. So we'll start with Jewel, and we'll just go to her left. Go ahead, Jewel.
How to find me? So kids@blackstudentunion.org is our website. You can reach all of our social media pages. We have Instagram, Facebook. Every contact on there goes directly to me. Give me a couple days to respond. If it is urgent, you need to text me. If I don't respond when you text me, call me. I just have to put that out there because I also do have another business and I do a lot of stuff. But your kids who are already in our program have my phone number and they text me for everything. They text me to ask me my opinion on a movie. Thank you for just for allowing me to be in community with your children.
I'm not part of a larger organization, but I have a personal email that you can, it's my name, anthony.c.henderson7@gmail.com. If you have any questions for me, and you feel free to reach me there. So, yeah.
Okay, I work at Family Promise, and we mostly serve families who are facing homelessness, but we also help youth and individuals as well as elderly, and they can reach our 24/7 hotline. We have crisis case managers who work 24/7, and that line is 253-444-4563, or you can go to fpops.org, which is fpops.org.
Again, I am with the sheriff's office. You can go ahead and email me. It's just the first letter of my first name and then my last name at kitsap.gov. But you can also feel free to text or call my work cell, and that number is 360-633-0805.
Yeah, Brian, I'm with Kitsap Recovery Center. My email is bboyer@kitsap.gov. And then we can reach me through the main line at 360-337-4625.
Laura Hyde, Kitsap County Substance Abuse Prevention and Youth Services. And it's LHYDE@kitsap.gov. But you can just Google Kitsap County Substance Abuse Prevention Youth. Sooner or later, it's going to come up. And so you don't have to remember all of that because I know it's a long name, but just Kitsap County Substance Abuse Prevention Youth Services. You'll find me, Laura Hyde.
So I have a private clinic. You can Google Milagro, Milagro, which means miracle therapy services in Bremerton. My name is Cindy Bonilla, B as in boy, Onilla. I'm an advocate in all kinds of capacities, whether it's for substance abuse, insurance issues, healthcare. Feel free to reach out to me and I'll connect you with somebody if it's not somebody here. I also want to put a plug in for Family Promise. They need board members on this side of the water, because
Yes.
Family Promise is all the way over in south of Puyallup. It's a great organization. We got a ton of money for mental health and for human services through Medicaid. And so professionals that are interested, I'm a board member because I live in Port Orchard. So it doesn't take a lot of work, but we need more people to get the word out because they have money to give and they're dying to give it. So that's my plug.
All right, and with that, I want to thank our panel. I want to thank all of you for coming out. I want to thank everyone who is watching online. This is the Stronger Together podcast. This is episode 6 of The Ripple Effect, again, brought to you by the county. This is done by Laura and Deanne, who has put in so much work from Kitsap County Substance Use Prevention. As always, I am Marwan Cameron. This is The Conduit. Take care of yourself, take care of each other, and we will see you next time. Until next time, bye-bye.